Hey everyone, my name is Robert Wright, and my presentation is on how the Houston Astros won the 2017 World Series with the help of data analytics. So I'm going to provide you with a bit of background and context as to why this is such an interesting subject to cover. So the Houston Astros beat the LA Dodgers to win the 2017 World Series despite being the 18th lowest paid team in the league, and they had a budget that was 50% smaller than what the Dodgers had. So many credit their win to their heavy influence of data analytics within the ball club. And Sports Illustrated had even predicted this win in an article that was published in about 2013 because of Houston's ability to use data for their team despite lacking funding like other big names in the sport. So in 2011, Houston underwent major changes when they brought on a new general manager that's named Jeff Luhnow. And as soon as he was hired, his goal was to transform the Astros into a data-driven organization. Some of Jeff's background is that he had been a general manager for the St. Louis Cardinals, and he also used to work at McKinsey. And for those that might not know, McKinsey is a consulting firm that is known for their ability to help evaluate management decisions that using qualitative and quantitative analysis um, across both the public and the private sector. So clearly, Luhnow's coming from a strong analytical background, and he said he did have his fair share of hardships trying to transform the ball club, and it took about 4 seasons to fully instill the importance of data onto the team. But as the team adapted to these changes, these analytical insights helped the Astros make decisions like who to draft or who to play during certain circumstances. So data analytics in sports is a very complex and elaborate thing. So I attempted to simplify the Astros scenario as much as possible. So the root of their problem is that compared to the Dodgers, they lack major funding. So the Dodgers are the highest uh, had the highest payroll in baseball in 2017, and they are generally in like the top five among the league. Versus the Astros, which are the 18th lowest paid team, as I said before. So how are the Astros able to compete with a team like this? And that's just lacking funds, and what are they going to do to win? So the primary objective in baseball is to score as many runs as possible and limit the team that you're playing against to as few runs as possible. Therefore, we'd like to maximize runs scored and minimize the runs allowed, which is like to increase the probabilities of winning. Both the offense and the defense have their own set of respective responsibilities. So the offense needs to get as many hits as possible and maximize the chances of earning a run. And the defense needs to minimize the quantity of people getting on base and from there preventing runs from scoring. So this kind of leads us into the question of what type of data did the Astros analyze to help them make decisions. So I broke this up into two categories, even though they kind of play off of each other. So for offense, although there are many more figures and metrics that the teams measure other than these, I just threw in a few of the simpler ones. Like batting average, RBIs, and WPA, which is the win probability added for each player. So the batting average is the number of hits onto base divided by and hits and home runs divided by the number of plate appearances by said player. And RBI is just the quantity of runners that you send home to home plate from one of your hits. And this is important to measure because it showcases like the batter's ability to hit under pressure and in clutch circumstances. And WPA tells us how a particular player affects a team's win expectancy with his play. To calculate this, you need to include your win expectancy, and it basically is just an average of wins granted to a specific player on the team. So a win counts as +1, and a loss is a -1. And so because of this, the negative WPA of the pitcher would be the exact number just positive for the other team. So for example, if the Dodgers defense had a negative 0.78 WPA, then the Astros offense would have a 0.78 WPA. So from a defensive perspective, some of the data they look at specifically for pitchers is a ERA, or the earned run average, or walks and hits per innings pitched, and then also the WPA, which is what I covered a couple seconds before. So the quantity, and they also cover the quantity of strikeouts. So ERA is calculated by dividing the number of earned runs allowed by the number of innings pitched, and then multiplying that by 9 innings because there's 9 innings in a baseball game. So The WHIP is calculated by totaling the number of hits and walks the pitcher allowed divided by the number of innings they pitch. So these are just some of the most important things that teams look into in making decisions using data, but there's also thousands of more figures that their data teams look into. So kind of running with this simplified model, this is what I've come up with for the Astros and what they use successfully to beat the highest paid team in baseball. So for the decision variables, they were deciding what players to play and judging this purely based on historical data and like from there ranking their performance for each player. So their objective for the offense is to maximize runs scored and for the defense to minimize runs allowed. So some of the constraints are the batting order and as in each batter can only go once out of 9 players. And this order is predetermined for each game, so they can't change it. They have 9 innings to score as many runs as possible and limited to 3 outs per inning. And if they wanted to, in the circumstance that they wanted to change a pitcher due to like a decreasing performance, a new pitcher would have to warm up before placing them directly into the game. And there's not necessarily like a set amount of time that a pitcher needs to warm up for. It's just kind of until they feel like they're ready to pitch. And also the quantity of defensive players that are allowed on the field is a constraint. So we're kind of just going to look at the numbers from the World Series side by side. Basically across the board, Houston had better numbers, except for the ERA. And the reason for that is that, and I believe in Game 3, that the Dodgers won that game. So it went to Game 7. And the Dodgers won one of the games just by a significant amount of runs, and therefore Houston has a higher earned run average. But other than that, their numbers just across the board were much better. They had a lower WHIP, more strikeouts, just preventing people from getting on base and therefore preventing the Dodgers from scoring, therefore having them lose the game. But from a batting perspective, they batted pretty well, better than the Dodgers. They had more hits. Their win percentage went up greatly, and they had more at-bats than the Dodgers. And so basically the more at-bats they had, the greater the probability they have to score. And so so I've learned a lot of interesting bits through my research and investigation of the 2017 Astros. And something common you hear in baseball is that it's a game of numbers. Like people are saying that baseball is a game of numbers. And I kind of, like through this, I found this to be true. When it comes to historical data, it's just really king in baseball. Also, generally speaking, whoever has the better numbers is just more likely to win, just plain and simple. Also, how well teams utilize data to make decisions has proven to be greatly successful in baseball. And we can expect to see a shift in how teams are managed and how decisions are made due to success stories we see like the Houston Astros or even something like the movie Moneyball. So after learning about these interesting things, this kind of also made me consider the potential for data-driven decision-making like in other sports. It could be super interesting to see this in basketball, especially like college basketball, where it's not as much in the spotlight and they could just be running data to help make decisions. I just think it's a very big revolutionary thing, and we're going to see a lot of it in the future. So yeah, that's basically how the Houston Astros beat the highest paid team in the MLB using prescriptive analytics. Thank you, and here are my sources. Thanks.